The great hall of the Galactic Council gleamed under artificial stars. Representatives from 40 different species sat in their designated sections, their forms ranging from the crystalline Vex to the flowing, water-based Aquari. At the center platform stood Ambassador David Reed, a human in a simple gray suit, holding a data tablet that glowed with soft blue light. "We request that these items remain prohibited within human-controlled space," David said, his voice steady despite the murmurs already starting around the chamber. "Furthermore, we ask that all species traveling through our sectors respect these restrictions." Council Speaker Vorn, a tall being with 4 arms and silver skin, gestured for David to continue. "Please present your list, Ambassador." David activated the display. A holographic list appeared above the platform, floating in the air for all to see. The chamber fell silent as representatives read through the items. Then, slowly, laughter began to ripple through the crowd. "Synthetic emotion amplifiers?" called out Representative Karn of the Kelton Empire, his scaled face twisted in amusement. "You ban devices that bring happiness?" "Certain genetic modification tools," read another alien, her voice dripping with disbelief. "The same tools we use to cure diseases?" "Quantum probability calculators," added a third voice from the back. "Mathematics frightens humans now?" The laughter grew louder. David stood quietly, waiting for the noise to die down. He had expected this reaction. Humans always expected this reaction. Speaker Vorn raised 2 of his hands for silence. "Ambassador Reed, surely you understand how these restrictions appear to the wider galaxy. These are common technologies. Some of them have been in use for thousands of years. The Kelton have used emotion amplifiers in therapy for 6 centuries. The Vex use genetic tools as casually as you humans use medicine. What possible reason could you have for such extreme prohibitions?" David took a breath. "We have historical precedent. Each item on this list has caused significant harm to human populations. We learned these lessons at great cost. We simply ask that others respect our caution." "Caution?" Karn stood from his seat, his purple robes flowing around him. "This is not caution, Ambassador. This is paranoia. This is primitive fear of advancement." Other voices joined in agreement. "Humans are still young to the galactic community," said Representative Mora, a floating entity of pure energy. "Perhaps you have not yet learned to properly use these technologies." "With respect," David said, keeping his voice level, "we have used these technologies. That is precisely why we ban them." "Then you use them incorrectly," Karn shot back. "The Kelton have perfect safety records with emotion amplifiers. Not a single incident in 600 years. Your species simply lacks the discipline for proper implementation." "Or the intelligence," someone muttered from the crowd. Sparking fresh laughter, David's jaw tightened, but he maintained his composure. "We are not questioning your capabilities. We are simply stating that these technologies pose unique dangers. Dangers that may not be immediately apparent. Dangers you cannot even explain," Karn pressed. "You offer no evidence, no data, just vague warnings and fear. This is not how the Galactic Council operates, Ambassador. We deal in facts, not superstition." Speaker Vorn looked at David with something almost like pity. "Ambassador Reed, do you have any concrete evidence to support these restrictions? Any scientific data we can review?" David hesitated. The truth was complicated. The evidence existed, buried deep in classified human archives. But sharing it meant revealing humanity's darkest chapters. Meant exposing just how close Earth had come to total extinction. Multiple times. "Some of our data remains classified for security reasons," David said carefully. The chamber erupted in derisive laughter. "Classified." Karn's voice boomed over the noise. "How convenient. Humans want us to follow their rules, but will not even explain why. I move that we dismiss these restrictions as baseless, called out another representative. Seconded, came several voices. Speaker Vorn looked at David one more time. Ambassador, unless you can provide substantive evidence, I am afraid the Council cannot support your requests. Your restrictions will apply only to human ships and human space. Other species are free to carry and use these technologies as they see fit. David closed his eyes briefly. He had tried to warn them. He always tried to warn them. Understood, Speaker Vorn, he said quietly. But I ask that this decision be recorded. And I request that when incidents occur, humanity be granted permission to intervene. If incidents occur, Karn laughed, which they will not. A council voted. The decision was unanimous. The humans stood alone once again. 3 months passed after the council meeting. The Kelton research station orbited a distant moon in neutral space, far from human territory. Dr. Venn stood in the main laboratory, watching his team prepare the latest model of synthetic emotion amplifiers. The devices looked harmless small silver discs, no larger than a coin. Begin test sequence 47, Venn ordered. His assistant, a younger Kelton named Rax, activated the amplifiers. 20 volunteer subjects sat in chairs arranged in a circle. Each wore a monitoring headband. The amplifiers hummed softly as they powered on. Subjects report feelings of contentment. Rax read from his console. Happiness levels increasing by 30%. 40%. All readings within normal parameters. Venn smiled. This would prove the humans wrong. The Kelton had been using this technology safely for centuries. Human fears were nothing but ignorance dressed up as wisdom. Increase power to level 5, Venn commanded. Sir? That is beyond standard therapeutic levels, Rax said hesitantly. The humans claim these devices are dangerous at any level, Venn replied. We will prove they can handle much more. We will show the entire galaxy that human paranoia has no basis in reality. Rax nodded and adjusted the settings. The amplifiers glowed brighter dot for the first week. Everything seemed perfect. The test subjects reported unprecedented levels of happiness and satisfaction. They volunteered for extended sessions. They asked to wear the amplifiers constantly. Venn documented everything, preparing his report for the council. Then, on day 8, something changed. Dr. Venn, Rax called urgently. Subject 12 refuses to remove his amplifier. What do you mean refuses? Venn walked to the monitoring station. He says he cannot bear the thought of feeling normal emotions again. He is becoming aggressive when we try to take it off. Just one subject? Venn frowned. Probably a psychological issue unrelated to the device. Make a note and continue observations. But by day 10, all 20 subjects refused to remove their amplifiers. They stopped eating, stopped sleeping. They just sat in their chairs, lost in artificial bliss. This is concerning, Rax said, his voice shaking slightly. We should stop the experiment. Not yet, Venn insisted. We need to understand what is happening. This has never occurred in 600 years of Kelton use. What Venn did not realize was that he had crossed a threshold. The amplifiers were not just making the subjects happy anymore. They were rewriting the subject's brain chemistry, creating new pathways, building dependencies that went far deeper than simple addiction. On day 12, the first subject died. His heart simply stopped, unable to maintain basic functions, while his brain devoted all its energy to processing the artificial emotions. Shut it down. Venn ordered. Remove all amplifiers immediately. But when the team tried to remove the devices, the subjects fought back. They attacked the researchers with desperate violence. 3 Kelton staff members were injured before security could restrain the subjects. And then came the real horror. When the amplifiers were finally removed by force, the subjects did not return to normal. They collapsed into catatonic states. Their minds, so dependent on the artificial stimulation, could no longer process natural emotions. Scans showed massive damage to their emotional centers. The changes were permanent. Within hours, 2 more subjects died. The others lay motionless, their eyes open but empty. "Contact the Galactic Council," Venn whispered, staring at the disaster before him. "We need help." But it was too late for quiet requests. The situation was deteriorating too fast. The remaining subjects began to seize. Their bodies convulsed as their damaged brains misfired. The station's medical bay filled with screaming. Rax looked at his superior with horror. "The humans warned us. They specifically warned us about this." Venn felt his world crumbling. "Send a distress signal. Send it to everyone, including human space." "Sir, human space is 4 days away at maximum speed. Send it anyway." The message went out across all channels. A Kelton research station in crisis. Multiple casualties. Cause: synthetic emotion amplifiers operating beyond safe parameters. The response came within an hour. Not from the Council. Not from the Kelton Empire. Not from Earth. "This is Captain Miller of the Earth Vessel Sentinel. We received your distress call. We are 3 days out. Can you maintain the situation until we arrive?" Venn looked at the chaos around him. 6 subjects dead now. The others fading fast. His staff exhausted and terrified. "No," he said honestly. "No, we cannot. But please hurry. We need your help. We need to know what we did wrong." There was a long pause. Then Captain Miller's voice came back, heavy with old sadness. Asterisk. "You did not do anything wrong, Doctor. You just did not do anything new. We will explain when we arrive. Until then, do not attempt to restart any amplifiers. Do not try to ease the subject's suffering with more stimulation. It will only make things worse." "How do you know?" Venn asked desperately. Another pause. "Because we have lost billions learning these lessons. Doctor, billions." The transmission ended. Venn stood in the quiet that followed, understanding beginning to dawn like a cold sun. Asterisk. The Earth Vessel Sentinel arrived in 2 days instead of 3. Captain Miller entered the Kelton research station with a medical team wearing heavy protective gear. Dr. Venn met them at the airlock, his scales dull with exhaustion and grief. "We have lost 14 subjects," Venn said quietly. "The remaining 6 are barely alive. We do not understand what happened. We followed every safety protocol." Captain Miller, a woman with gray hair and tired eyes, looked at him with something between pity and understanding. "No, Doctor. You followed every Kelton safety protocol. That was the problem." She moved past him into the medical bay. Her team immediately began working on the surviving subjects, administering medications and stabilizing their vital signs. Venn watched in confusion as the humans worked with practiced efficiency, as if they had done this many times before. "How do you know what to do?" Venn asked. Miller pulled out a small data drive. "Because we have treated this exact condition approximately 43 million times in our history." "This is not new, Dr. Venn. This is very, very old." She led him to a quiet observation room and activated a holographic display. Images filled the air between them. "Earth, year 2087, Miller began. "Humanity developed synthetic emotion amplifiers. Just like yours. We thought they were miracles. Depression, anxiety, trauma, all could be erased with a simple device. Within 5 years, 3 billion people wore them constantly. The images showed happy crowds, people laughing, cities filled with joy. What happened?" Venn whispered, though he already feared the answer. "The cascade effect," Miller said. "At low levels, the amplifiers work fine. They boost mood. They help people feel better. But humans always want more. We increased the power, extended the usage time, and the devices began to rewrite our brains. New images appeared, hospitals overflowing, people collapsed in streets, cities going dark. Within 2 years, 800 million people died, Miller continued, her voice flat with old pain. Another billion were left in permanent vegetative states. Their brains had forgotten how to produce natural emotions. When we tried to remove the amplifiers, they died. When we left them on, they died. There was no winning. Venn felt his stomach turn. But you recovered. You survived. Barely. Miller's expression hardened. We banned the technology, destroyed every amplifier we could find. But the damage was done. An entire generation lost. It took us 70 years to rebuild our population. She changed the display. A new scene appeared Earth, different time period. That was just the first lesson, Miller said. Do you see the other items on our prohibited list? Genetic modification tools? We used those to create super soldiers in 2134. The modifications worked perfectly for 5 years. Then the soldiers' DNA began to break down. Massive cellular death. 18 million people died screaming as their own bodies dissolved from inside. More images. More horror. Quantum probability calculators? Miller continued. We used those to predict economic markets in 2156. They worked too well. They showed us futures with such accuracy that people stopped making choices. Stopped living. They just waited for the predictions to come true. Society collapsed. 12 billion people starved because nobody thought they needed to plant crops. The calculators said food would arrive. It did not. Venn could not speak. The scope of human suffering was beyond his comprehension. Every single item on our list, Miller said softly, represents a catastrophe. A tragedy. A moment when humanity nearly ended itself. We are not paranoid, Dr. Venn. We are survivors. We carry the memories of every mistake so others will not have to repeat them. She deactivated the display and looked at him. Directly, your people have used emotion amplifiers safely for 600 years. Because you used them correctly. Low power. Limited duration. Strict medical supervision. But you wanted to prove humans wrong. You wanted to show that our fears were baseless. So you pushed beyond safe limits. And you discovered the same truth we learned with billions of lives. Venn sat down slowly, his legs unable to support him. We thought we were better than you. More advanced. More disciplined. You are not worse than us, Miller said. You are just luckier. You had us to warn you before the damage spread beyond one station. We had no one. We had to learn every lesson alone. She stood to leave, then paused at the door. The council will vote again next month, Miller said. I imagine the discussion will be different this time. Your empire will want to share your data. Other species will want to review human historical records. Our prohibitions will not seem so paranoid anymore. Venn looked up at her. I am sorry. For mocking your warnings. For not listening. Miller's expression softened slightly. Do not apologize to me, Doctor. Apologize to your subjects. And then help us make sure this never happens again. 3 weeks later, the Galactic Council voted unanimously to adopt human safety protocols. Ambassador David stood at the center platform once more, but this time, the chamber was silent, respectful. The list of prohibited items was no longer a joke, it was a memorial. A reminder that some knowledge comes at a price too terrible to pay twice, and humanity, having paid that price in full, would make sure the galaxy remembered. The end. Asterisk.